The Galactic Council had existed for over 40,000 years. They had seen species rise and fall like waves upon a cosmic shore. They had witnessed empires stretch across star systems only to crumble into dust. The 12 founding races considered themselves the masters of all known space, and their judgment was considered final in all matters. When their deep space probes first detected signals from a small blue planet in an unremarkable corner of the Orion Arm, the Council barely paid attention. The transmissions were primitive radio waves, barely reaching beyond their own solar system. The species that sent them called themselves humans, and after months of observation and analysis, the Council's scientific committee released their official assessment. They classified humanity as a Category 7 civilization, the lowest possible rating for a space-capable species. The report described them as short-lived creatures with fragile bodies, limited physical strength, and primitive technology. The final line of the report would become famous across the galaxy in the years that followed. It simply stated that humanity posed no threat to galactic security and could be safely ignored. Ambassador of the species had been the one to present the report. His tall, elegant form had stood before the council chambers, his 4 eyes scanning the gathered representatives with amusement. Humans lived barely 100 years, he explained. Their bones broke easily. They required constant sleep. They could not survive in vacuum, extreme heat, or extreme cold without artificial protection. They had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel, and their ships were slow and poorly armed. The council had laughed at his presentation, a rare moment of unity among species that usually disagreed on everything. For the next 50 years, humanity expanded slowly into nearby star systems. They established colonies on a dozen worlds, built trading outposts, and sent diplomatic missions to the council. Each time human ambassadors arrived at the great station at the galaxy's core, they were politely dismissed. The council had no interest in adding another weak species to their membership. Humanity's requests for trade agreements were. Their appeals for protection were ignored. Their offers of alliance were met with condescending smiles and vague promises that meant nothing. The humans accepted this treatment with remarkable patience. They smiled politely at the insults. They nodded graciously when turned away. They thanked the council for their time and returned to their small corner of space. The other species interpreted this behavior as weakness. They saw humans as cowards who lacked the spirit to demand respect. Some of the younger races, those who had not yet earned their place on the council, began to see humanity as easy prey. The Empire made the first move. They were a warrior species, proud and aggressive, with natural armor plating and claws that could tear through metal. They had been trying to earn a seat on the council for centuries, and they believed that conquering the human colonies would prove their strength. Their fleet of 300 warships descended upon the human colony world of New Eden without warning. They expected the battle to last hours. They expected the humans to surrender or flee. They expected an easy victory that would bring them glory. The battle lasted exactly 11 minutes. When it ended, not a single ship remained. The humans had not used conventional weapons. Instead, they had deployed something the galaxy had never seen before. They called it the Hellfire Protocol, a network of automated defense platforms that used directed energy weapons of terrifying power. The beams cut through armor like it was paper. The explosions were so bright that they could be seen from neighboring star systems. The survivors, those few who managed to escape in damaged pods, told stories that spread across the galaxy. They described humans who showed no fear, who fought with cold precision, who seemed to anticipate every move before it happened. They spoke of human commanders who smiled as they gave orders to destroy entire squadrons. The stories were dismissed as exaggerations, the desperate lies of defeated warriors trying to explain their failure. But they were not the only ones watching. The collective, a species of hive-minded, had been observing humanity for decades. They controlled over 2,000 star systems and commanded the largest military force outside the council itself. They saw the destruction of the fleet not as a warning but as a challenge. If they could destroy humanity, they would prove themselves worthy of leading the galaxy. They attacked with overwhelming force. 50,000 ships descended upon human space like a swarm of locusts. They struck at every colony simultaneously, determined to end the conflict before humanity could respond. On the first day, they destroyed 3 human outposts and killed over 2 million people. On the second day, they pushed deeper into human territory, confident that victory was inevitable. On the third day, the humans revealed their true nature. It began with the loss of communication. One by one, ships went silent. Entire squadrons vanished from sensors without explanation. The Hive Queens sent orders to their fleets, but no response came. When they finally managed to restore contact with a survivor, what they learned horrified them. The humans had not been building colonies for the past 50 years. They had been building weapons. Beneath the surface of every human world, buried deep underground, were factories that produced war machines on a scale the galaxy had never imagined. The humans had been preparing for this moment since the day the Council dismissed them. They had studied every species, learned every weakness, and designed weapons specifically intended to destroy each one. They deployed biological agents that targeted the chemical signals the hive mind used to communicate. Individual soldiers suddenly found themselves cut off from their queens, unable to receive orders or coordinate with their fellow warriors. For a species that had never experienced true individuality, the sensation was maddening. Entire crews descended into chaos, turning on each other in their confusion. Ships crashed into each other. Weapons fired wildly in all directions. The human counterattack was methodical and merciless. Their ships emerged from hidden bases scattered throughout the region, faster and more powerful than anything they had encountered. Human soldiers boarded disabled vessels, moving through the corridors with weapons that seemed designed to inflict maximum suffering. They did not take prisoners. They did not accept surrender. Every they encountered was eliminated without hesitation. Within a week, the collective lost half of their entire military force. Their queens, safe on there, watched in horror as their children died by the billions. They sent desperate messages to the Galactic Council, begging for intervention. The Council, for the first time was forced to take notice. Ambassador was the one who contacted humanity. He expected to negotiate from a position of strength, to use the Council's authority to force the humans into submission. Instead, he found himself speaking with a human admiral named Sarah, a woman with cold eyes and a colder smile. She listened politely as he demanded that humanity cease all military operations. She nodded as he threatened sanctions and isolation. When he finished, she said only 4 words. "We are just beginning." The next day, human ships appeared in orbit around them. They did not attack immediately. Instead, they broadcast a message to every planet in the collective, offering them a choice. Surrender unconditionally and accept human governance, or face complete extinction. The queens had 3 hours to decide. They chose resistance. It was the wrong choice. The humans did not invade they did something far worse. They redirected a nearby asteroid, one that had been harmlessly orbiting a distant star, and sent it crashing into the planet's surface at a fraction of the speed of light. The impact was visible across the entire sector. When the dust cleared, there was nothing but a field of burning debris. The message was clear, and the galaxy finally understood. Humanity had never been harmless. They had simply been patient, waiting for the right moment to reveal their true power. Every insult they had endured, every dismissal they had suffered, had only fueled their determination. They had learned from the galaxy's treatment of them, and they had decided that they would never be victims again. The Council called an emergency session. Species that had not spoken to each other in centuries now united in their fear of humanity. They demanded that something be done, but no one could agree on what that something should be. They argued for negotiation. They wanted to assemble a combined fleet. They suggested assassination. Each proposal was met with objections, and while they argued, humanity continued to expand. Human fleets struck at the heart of the collective, eliminating resistance and claiming territory. They did not stop at military targets. They destroyed industrial centers, disrupted supply lines, and disabled communication networks. Within a month, the collective that had controlled 2,000 star systems was reduced to a handful of scattered refugees begging for shelter wherever they could find it. Other species began to surrender before they were even attacked. The humiliated by their earlier defeat offered unconditional allegiance to humanity. Several smaller races followed their example, hoping that cooperation would spare them from destruction. Humanity accepted these offers graciously, integrating the new species into their growing empire with surprising efficiency. The Council watched these developments with growing terror. They had spent 40,000 years believing that they controlled the galaxy, that their power was absolute and eternal. Now they faced a species that had destroyed one of the greatest military forces in known space in less than a month, and they had no idea how to stop them. Admiral became the face of human expansion. She appeared on broadcasts throughout the galaxy, always calm, always polite, and always terrifying. She never made threats directly. She simply stated facts. Humanity wanted peace, she said. Humanity wanted cooperation. But humanity would no longer tolerate being treated as inferior. Any species that attacked human interests would face the same fate as any species that refused to accept human leadership would be given time to reconsider. But in the end, every species would learn to respect humanity, one way or another. The first Council species to break ranks was They sent a secret envoy to Admiral, offering intelligence on Council defenses in exchange for protection, accepted their offer and welcomed them as humanity's first official allies. The representative, a being of crystalline beauty, stood beside at her next broadcast and spoke of how humanity had treated them with dignity and respect, how the Council had never offered them true equality. Other species listened to these words and began to wonder if humanity might actually be preferable to the Council. 1 year after the first attack on New Eden, humanity controlled more territory than any species in galactic history. Their empire stretched across thousands of star systems, and it was still growing. The Council that had dismissed them as harmless now cowered behind their defenses, knowing that those defenses would not hold forever. And in the great hall where Ambassador had once laughed at humanity, where the Council had ignored every human request for 50 years, a new flag now flew. It bore the symbol of Earth, a simple blue circle on a field of black, and beneath it was written a phrase in the human language. We remember everything. The galaxy had called humanity harmless. The galaxy had been wrong, and now the galaxy would burn until it learned to respect the species it had once dismissed as weak. This was not revenge, the humans insisted. This was simply the natural order of things. The strong ruled and the weak obeyed. Humanity had learned this lesson from the Council itself. They had simply proven to be better students than anyone expected.